This is Infection, the survival podcast recorded live on Tuesday, January 12th, 2021, episode 313. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We bring you the latest news, reviews, updates, and more each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on Gab at Nick. That's where you'll find me. You won't find me anywhere else posting anything. You can follow me on Gab at Nick. You can, of course, check out my political rantings at atnshow.com. My political blog, my IT blog, dudeandit.com, or nickcraig.net. Wow. Joining me, Mr. Aldridge himself, Brian with an I Aldridge. Hello, Brian.
Hello. Well, hey, if you want to find me, I gotta think where this is now. I'm on Gab.
I updated your lower third.
Am I at Brian Aldridge on Gab?
You are. You haven't posted since 2016, I don't believe, but you are there as
I know I have an account. I have it on my phone, but I wasn't sure what I put my name as. So at Brian Aldridge on Gab. Of course, my blog biteoftech.com, which as all of these social media things come and go, and who knows what'll happen, we can always I got a cool picture of Idaho though. You like that?
Yeah, and then your
Good
paper
stuff.
about your dissertation
has come right back around to 2021.
December 8th, 2016.
Yes. Isn't that perfect?
So
yeah, also, if you want to find it, you can look on my blog if you want to figure out where I'm at in social media in the future. And then of course our website, infectionpodcast.com. If you go there, you can go check out on the right-hand side, join our server in Discord. As long as that stays up for us, we'll see. And then on there, you can join our news channel if you put topics in there. If maybe it's a game you think we should be covering, or a topic, or anything throughout the week, put that in the news channel, and we cover that before we do every show. Also, we have our Steam group. If you happen to be in front of your computer, you can jump on there, have Steam open, and a little notification will pop up letting you know that we're getting ready to start the live show. You can join us for the game giveaway, for the chat. That's really helpful for us. Also, we have our video forums for Twitch, BitChute, DLive, and YouTube for now. And on there, also the podcast extras that you can do if you want to see our pre and post show. If you're wanting the audio only versions, of course, those are not live, but they're after the fact. You can go to the lower right-hand side, and whatever platform you want to use, that's listed there. And then show notes now for 313 episodes of the podcast. If you want to follow along, you can go ahead and do that while you listen or watch. If you want to support us, you can go to the support tab or infectionpodcast.com/support. And you can go to amazon.infectionpodcast.com, humble.infectionpodcast.com, or Prime Gaming subs, as I'm sure you'll hear throughout the show.
Absolutely. Lots of ways to get involved. I'm sure everybody, you're familiar with what has gone on the past couple days in terms of internet crackdowns, and I'm not actually being a jerk this time, Brian. We actually were ahead of the curve on this. We've been streaming on DLive now for 6 or 8 months. We've been uploading the shows to BitChute for months now. I've made sure I've been doing that. Everybody could see this coming. We're prepared for that. We will have 2 new things. Well, one new thing's already set up. The other one we're still working on. We're going to have an email list coming soon that we'll ask people to put their email in on if you want to stay up to date, if we get banned on Discord or wherever. But the other thing I did just add to the website is infectionpodcast.com/live, which is a live page. And in the case of us getting removed from a specific platform, you can go to the live page, and there will always be the link to the current live platform that we're on. So if you watch on Twitch,
I host our website, so we're less beholden to whatever might happen.
Yes.
So our website should be fine, but hey, we'll see. Yeah. This will be an interesting year.
But I'll tell you, Discord and Brian, you might have to get you still got those TeamSpeak licenses? Cause
I can, if I need to, we can throw up a TeamSpeak server.
You might have to start running for the hills. So I think it's important to talk about, not even from a political aspect, but from more from a nerd aspect more than anything else. Brian, you're obviously a tech nerd. You're Boise Computer. I'm a tech nerd. Most people watching this program, I'm sorry to say this, you're definitely a nerd, probably a bit of a tech nerd. And what we've seen go on since Friday of last week with crackdowns from big social media or big tech and social media has been quite astonishing, to be perfectly honest with you. To have services like AWS and others pulling services, name registrars pulling services
based on purely political beliefs.
Yeah.
Not and the fact that going into the fact that they pulled those when they had a agreement with Amazon that if there was something they would give them 30 days to be able to leave the system. If that was in their contract, and they pulled them overnight just because they saw that they were growing at a record pace. And it's pretty disgusting that this can happen. It shows you what kind of power those main top companies have. And there's very little in the moment you can do, because if you look, most hosting platforms are done on AWS or they're done on Azure.
Yep.
Those are pretty much the two choices. Microsoft, from what I can tell so far, is staying a little bit back from this, which is probably fairly wise of them at the moment. But I mean, you've had Twitter, you've had Facebook, all these companies working synchronously, but then going in front of Congress and saying, no, we don't coordinate. But then when they bring up, oh, hey, what about this chat utility that was leaked? Oh, well, yeah, we do have some forms of back-end communication between them to coordinate certain things. Oh, okay. So when you called out specifically, you admit you're lying right now, but it's just frustrating when they lie and they know that no one there has the backbone to actually do anything about it.
Yeah. And, we're not going to get into the events that led up to this because it's frankly irrelevant. I don't know if I saw a great quote from our friend Adam Curry, Brian, who said his quote was something to the extent of Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Google are just glitches in the internet. Because now barring ISPs banning you, which if that happens, GG. But outside of
did you see in the news where there was an Idaho ISP that is blocking Facebook and Twitter?
Yeah.
But on their ISP, which Idaho's probably like, sure, well, that's fine.
Well, the residents were like, I don't want to go to it's like the people were messaging the ISP saying, I don't want my kids going to these sites. So they're like, all right, we're just going to do a global ban. We're just going to ban these sites outright. But barring an ISP banning you from accessing the internet is built for this. Now, it's not easy. It's not sexy. It's not always the most convenient, but the internet was built not around Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Apple. The internet was built to be, by definition, decentralized. That's what the internet the internet is. The protocol, the internet, the IP protocol, that's what that is. Website hosting and all that stuff came way later on. The internet itself still is exactly where you'd want it to be. There are alternatives. Again, not always the easiest. We saw our friends at Gab go through this for the last 4 years. They were blacklisted from everywhere. They were kicked off every app store, and now they're the only ones standing. I will toot my own little horn here, Brian. You had your verified check on YouTube. I am at Nick on Gab. I was the 11th user on the website. I've got my little blue check mark next to me.
I remember when you guys were talking about it, I hesitated. I was like, I'll get my name. And I waited a couple days and then Brian was gone.
Gone.
I should have done
not trying to brag, not saying, 2,500 followers, kind of a big deal. Well, also the Infection podcast on there. If you look at our lower third here, right below me, you see that the little bird is gone and it's now Gab. We're at Infection podcast on Gab as well. And once Parler comes back up, hopefully we already have accounts on those, but we'll start promoting those again. So stay tuned for that. Let's see. Head Neophyte says there's so much to consider. These huge tech companies are getting to the point where they're required to interact with society, but they aren't bound by the Constitution, so they can ban or silence anyone for any reason. You know, with that being aside, I think, Brian, this is a big wake-up call for a lot of people, that trusting these things can just vanish overnight. And they presumably did. Now, this was a political reason, which is nonsense, but it doesn't have to be. It could be any reason. And your site, your service could just vanish overnight because somebody has decided that they no longer approve of your content. We'll use the old Alex Jones example. Essentially, as he doesn't ban from the internet, literally banned from every single social network, his domain registrar, his streaming provider, banned from everything. He had to build it all from scratch. It's pretty crazy that we're watching it happen right now. I frankly I'm not super worried. I think social media is a detriment to our society. It makes us awful, terrible, miserable people. It gives us a false sense of reality. It pins us against each other. It's toxic. It's terrible. It's disgusting. And I think for a lot of people, myself included, getting off of Twitter and Facebook, which I have not been on since the first time I opened up Twitter was today to tweet out the show link right before the show, is going to make me. And I
disabled my Twitter account. So if someone goes to my @BoiseComputer on Twitter, it's no longer there. So I'm not going to support these kind of companies. Most of my interaction was very rarely news on there anymore. It used to be I followed it for news or for gaming news. Mostly it's all junk coming out of these gaming companies now, that has nothing to do with the actual product or the games. Facebook, I've been wanting to delete that, but I manage a couple pages for some organizations. So I may create a separate account for that, roll those out to the administration to that, and then maybe delete my Facebook. Because what else can you do? These are private companies, as Head Neophyte kind of says in his chat statement there. These are private companies. The only thing I can do is if I don't agree with you, I just don't give you business. And the business of Facebook is selling my data. The only thing I can do is just not give them my data.
Without going too far off the deep end, which I'll try to stop. Not that I care that if we get. I mean, I'm not going to speak for you, Brian, but I really at this point don't care. Like if somebody want to ban us off the internet, more power to them. It's funny though that we keep using that. Well, they're a private company. I think that's kind of a bullshit example. I think that's ridiculous. Private companies aren't allowed. I couldn't bar you from entering my restaurant because of the color of your skin. As a private company, no. I'm asking. As a private company, you could not bar entry to a restaurant because of somebody's whatever religion, race, ideology. It wouldn't matter.
You can only do it if they're a minority. You can only not ban them if they're a minority.
But my point
Someone can tell you they do not want you going to a restaurant if you're white. They can't. That's exactly Twitter's rules. If you go look at Twitter's rules, they say you cannot report racism if you are white or male or white male. Well, white male. Anyone else can, I guess, white, because it wouldn't be female, because it wouldn't be based on your sexual whatever. But I cannot. If someone says to me something about my race and that I need to die, I cannot report them on Twitter. The same thing. There was in the past week or two, there was a partner here on Twitter or on Twitch that said white lives do not matter. And you know what? That's perfectly fine. If I said the opposite, we'd be gone. If it got reported, we'd be gone before the end of the show. Correct?
The head of Twitch's outreach program or whatever put on her LinkedIn, or his link that I couldn't tell based on the picture because they all look the same. His or her LinkedIn profile that 74 million Americans are racists and deserve to die. So I thought that was rather interesting coming from progressive Twitch. Yeah. And then our Infection Podcast Twitter feed this week was nothing more than fuck Trump, fuck everybody that voted for him, you're a bunch of racists. So that's what our Twitter, the Infection Podcast Twitter, was this past week. You got these assholes like Slasher, who, by the way, has been accused multiple times of sexually assaulting and raping women, but we'll push that aside. Just on and on and on. And it's finally at a tipping point, Brian, where I just don't care. Like, I know that this show's not political. We're not going to turn this into a political show, but I'm talking about this stuff now. If Twitch wants to ban us, if Twitter wants to ban us, bring it on. I don't care at this point. There's no. But
I think we're at the point now where if we needed to just pay for our own way to PAX, we would just do it. If it was worth getting onto a platform where we didn't have to deal with all this political BS.
Why would we even? We're not even going to be able to go to PAX. Brian, you and I are going to be added to a list of gamers that are not allowed to go to these events because we supported Donald Trump in the 2016 and 2020 presidential election. Are you out of your mind? We're not going to be. We'll be barred entry to these freaking things. I mean, you've got sites now that are compiling lists of people that donated to the RNC and doxing them, posting their addresses and phone numbers and information on the internet. So you'll be put on a no-fly list. I mean, this shit is getting out of control at a rapid rate.
Oh yeah, they were trying to make it so Ted Cruz wouldn't be allowed to fly anymore, which means he wouldn't be able to continue being, in
a senator,
a representative, because he wouldn't be able to go to Washington or back to his place where his district constituents are. Yeah. So it's like they're purposely targeting and chasing people. And I've said it, people may think I'm a broken record, but Das Juden, it comes back to that again. People are so blind to this. If you just would look back at history, where when you start blaming all of your problems on a group of people, it becomes ultra easy to then start doing things to those people that you wouldn't do to your neighbor, right? They did the exact same thing in Germany, and saying you can't have a business because you're the reason that everything's going bad. It's happening again.
Yeah, Falcon.
Same thing with Amazon. Like it's frustrating. What do you do as an alternative? They've shut down all the local stores. How do you buy something online anymore without going through a company like that?
That's a tough one. Falcon says, sorry guys, not doing Amazon Prime or Twitch subs anymore. Neither am I. I canceled my Amazon Prime subscription today. So I will be buying as little from Amazon as possible. Now, obviously, some things you really don't have a choice, unfortunately. I mean, again, as you said, Brian, they've shut everything down, and now we've been given no choice. But I did cancel that subscription, or I shouldn't say I canceled. I set it up for not renewal. So that will not be renewing, and yeah, that's where we stand. And I'll say this, I'll say it again, from not a political standpoint. If stop being dependent on centralized things.
Bingo, boom, shakalaka.
This should have been a huge wake-up call to everybody, you, me, all of our listeners. Stop being dependent on single failure point sites. Learn to host your own stuff. Host your own email. You can get a VPS or some sort of little server. Christ, you can host it in your house. Learn how to do stuff in Linux. Learn how to run Mailman and all this other stuff. Do this stuff yourself. There's no excuse. Yeah. Learn how to be competent in Linux and host things. How many people have a home server in their house? Not many. I do. You do. Have a home server.
I run my own private Netflix. Because I didn't like Netflix political views, so I run my own movie server here. I don't open Netflix anymore.
I have a file sharing service that my friends, we back up each other's data. It's encrypted, but it's essentially like a private Dropbox. I mean, there's no more excuse. If this past week wasn't a wake up call for you, I don't care if you're a liberal, as far left as they go, Antifa, or a crazy right wing conservative, it doesn't matter. I don't care where you fall in the political ideology. Eventually, you will be the one that is in the crosshairs, and they will be coming for you. So. Yes, It's great to cancel culture all the Republicans right now, but when there's no more Republicans to cancel culture, it'll be canceling the moderate left. And then it'll be canceling the not quite so radical left, and then it'll be canceling the extreme left, because that's how this works. It's called the ovarian not the ovarian. What's the window the Overton window that shifts, and it will eventually shift so far to the left or right that there is nothing left but a tiny little micro fraction of a group. And that's where you'll be.
Look at someone like Tulsi Gabbard. I think that her normal center views, because she's pretty center. She says she's a Democrat, but there's a lot of things that she could say that would agree with both sides. And I think that the left is going to run her out of the party because she's not extreme enough. She has her own views. She doesn't just go straight in line with the party. I think that being in kind of a middle of the road, not caring about either extreme, is going to become extreme at some point, and that's scary to think. If you don't, Nazi Germany for me is the closest thing. You could look at things in North Korea too, as far as you start to edge that way of becoming extreme in that you have to believe exactly what I believe. People, either you left the country back in Nazi Germany, or you saluted and said that that's what you agreed with. There was no other option. They would turn you in. You would be a political prisoner if you didn't. There's silly stuff like that. It's just when people say you have to do this, you have to do that. When you have people at companies saying we need to re-educate the children of people, without them knowing.
Yeah, PBS.
Yeah, PBS. That is a problem. It's not their job to re-educate your children to the political views that they think they should be. It's just we're in a very scary time with very little holding it back, and I don't know. Where do we go from here? I feel like a lot of my predictions have come true over the years.
Well, and again, we do try to keep the show not political, but something like this is just, in my opinion, too big to sidestep or talk about. I think, Brian, we go back to maybe the roots of the internet's not the right word, but we go back to this will have a big impact on these websites. You already saw Twitter's stock in the garbage the past couple of days, billions of dollars in market share. This will have an impact. Jet says, I think the podcast might need to be renamed. No, we've got plenty of news we'll get to in a little bit, but I'll say this, Brian, you've got to, again, I don't care where you fall on the political aisle, decentralize. It's not hard to do. It is harder to do. It's not sexy. It's not easy. It's not convenient, but it can be done. And if you truly care, you'll do it. That's it. I mean, if you truly care, there is a way to do it. There's a way to get it done, and it can be done. But it's not a given. It's not a guarantee. But if you can sit here with a straight face and say that, oh, I don't have a problem here. There's no issue going on. You are the problem, because this is only going to get worse, and it will only.
Well, when it gets so partisan to the fact that you're willing to let those things go by. I mean, the fact that, once again, Nazi Germany, the fact that people could see burning bodies from smokestacks and say, oh, no, it's okay. It's not my problem. That's an extreme of it. But there's things happening to where if it was happening to you, I would think you would hope that people would say, well, don't my rights matter? Like, doesn't my opinion matter? Where you're seeing other people being told that. And one thing I tell my stepkids is, you should do unto others as you want them to do unto you. And so whenever there's a conflict of someone doing something unfair to someone else, I say, would you like it if someone did that to you? And they say no. I say, well, why are you doing it to them? And you know what? That solves most of their arguments, because most of their arguments is because they want something for themselves, and they want to take it from another person. I say, well, okay, so if you can take it from them, is it right if they take it from you? Well, they say no. Well, then I say you don't have the right to take it from them. People lose fact of that incredibly basic concept that we should teach our children, yet adults seem to have lost it.
Yeah, I would tend to agree. So, yeah, there you go. This is where we are. There's not really, I don't really have anything else to say.
Yeah.
Decentralize and
bingo, boom, shakalaka.
And yeah, decentralize. There's really no excuse not to do so. Yep. Go ahead and decentralize. By the way, we do have a Telegram channel. If you're on Telegram, it's t.me/infection podcast. That's another way you could stay tuned in. At this point, I'm just making these services available. Don't know where we will be, where we won't be. But it is nice to be available. And yes, well, yeah, I've got Signal personally, but Signal's not meant for necessarily group chats. So t.me/infection podcast for that. And I've got a couple people to thank. Donnie hits us up with the subscription, says, at least my Amazon Prime is for pro freedom streamers. Thank you very much, Donnie. Appreciate that. And our buddy Mel resubscribing with us here on Twitch as well. Thank you very much, Mel and Donnie. It is greatly appreciated. All right. Well, I think I've got that out of my system, Brian. Wanted to talk about that. Thought it was important. Still think it's important. Yeah. And we'll continue to talk about it because there is a lot of important stuff in there. But with that said, this is not the political show. This is not the bitch and complain fest. This is the survival podcast, half survival podcast. And we've got some survival stuff. Epic made a huge acquisition this past week, Brian.
Yes.
But with a company called RAD, R-A-D, and they are known for their development tools. They've been around since the 90s, right? This RAD Game Tools is a very old group.
Well, a lot of big games you would see on the launch screens. Usually you'll see these logos because these are the tools that major AAA studios use in order to compress video, to compress, various things in the game, and make it to where it's optimized to make it so it plays correctly and quickly on whatever device it's going on. It's the best picture versus the file size. So they purchased them, or they're partnering, right? So they're having it where members of the RAD team are partnering closely with Epic's rendering, animation, insight, and audio teams, integrating key tech and improvements across Unreal Engine and beyond. So RAD and Epic combining forces will allow even more developers access to tools to make their games load and download faster and offer their players better, higher quality video and gaming experience. So this is one where they're going through and looking at what costs our developers the most money. Because I think they're trying to make it, they take a very fair percentage of the sale after the fact anyways, right? Mm-hmm. They're taking way less than what Steam takes for your purchase, for purchasing the game. But I think they're looking at, because when you're developing a game, you have to look at the whole thing. You have to look at what is the licensing cost for, maybe my animation tools, because you've got some animation tools, 3DS, for instance, very expensive. And if you're just making one game, you could be making a decent amount towards that. Or, these compression tools. A lot of these will take like a percentage of your sales. Well, you get enough of those stacked on top of each other, there's a huge percentage of your game income gone. And then you look at Steam, who takes 30%. Then, and then you got 5% from Unreal. That can add up to where maybe you're taking back 50%. Maybe if you're lucky, if you've kept it down to a minimum. Well, and I think they're trying to cut that down.
Oh, let's be clear with this. That's 50% of, in some cases, not a very large number. If you sell your game for, some of these early access games are $19.99. You're talking about once you get it, you're talking about and then pay taxes on it. You're talking about less than $10 per sale of your game. And that's not a lot of money. It means you have to sell a whole mass of games, because you're right. All these do add up. 2% here, 5%, 10. All these little percentages add up from all these free tools. They are free, but they'll expect something on the back end, rightfully so. So I think, to me, again, say what you want. Like or hate Epic, and I know that Tencent's got a bunch of share in Epic. To me, this seems like nothing but good. They didn't buy all of RAD. It doesn't appear to me that they're changing RAD.
No, they still will be licensing to non-Unreal users as well. So you don't have to be using Unreal and now. It's not like they purchased it and said, all right, this tool's no longer, because that's what a lot of companies would have done. They'll purchase it and say, you know what? You can't use this with anybody else, and then that really creates a problem for these studios that were relying on it, that maybe were using a different engine. They've allowed that to continue, but creating an extra good deal for people that are on Unreal.
Do you think that they'll build some of these tools? Their big one is Oodle, right? That's their big compression tool that most people use. You think they'll build some of that stuff directly into the launcher? or into the Unreal
Yeah,
Engine?
well,
To me, it seems like they will.
Yeah, they are. I think they're now currently working on integrating it into the engine, integrating various pieces. They did something very similar with the tool. There's a tool that takes a high poly object, so like a model. You know, the polys are the number of angles and sides to it, and then compresses those down. And you see that really a lot in the newest Unreal Engine that they're getting ready to release, where they say, hey, it has this tons of polys, and it kind of simplifies them. They have one that was before like this, a paid product separate. They did integrate that into the engine to where you could right click on a model and say, I want to simplify this model down to where you can create the various, which we've talked about how something far away, you put a very low quality model, and then as you get closer, it raises that up for performance reasons. I don't see why they wouldn't do something very similar to where you pretty much have a video in engine, right click on it and say compress, and you can put in some settings for however you want to compress it. That it would be very easy for them to do that, and I don't know why they wouldn't.
Yeah. So, I mean, bar them making any massive changes, which they haven't yet, to me, this seems like a good thing. Now, if they, now that they've acquired Rad, if they make a whole bunch of changes and do a bunch of things and destroy the software, well, then obviously that's a bad thing. But as of right now, to me, the employees are probably, I would assume that Epic is a more stable company than Rad was, making just a bunch of free tools available online. I don't know how that works monetarily. Obviously, they were getting money on the back end from licensing, but to me, this again, it seems like a win-win. Obviously, Epic now, we talked about it last week, will have the room to make a huge expansion to their physical workforce. They bought almost 1 million square foot mall with like 38 acres of land or something like that. So there will not be a space issue for them going forward. Yeah. And this was a big.
This product's been used in almost 25,000 games. So
that's impressive.
It's highly used. You got to think of all the games throughout the years. This is something that's been used for many, many years. I mean, you can look at some pretty old games and you'll see these logos popping up on the start. And not just PC games, console games, especially console games. You see them a lot. This actually a lot more because of the restrictions of consoles. And hopefully, maybe Arc will use this and actually get their install size down a little bit. That would be kind of nice.
Yeah. So that's cool news. Again, yeah. There's literally nothing to say negative right now. If that changes, we are contrary to what people think, we'll give somebody a good lambasting if we need to. But at this point, I don't have anything to yell and scream at over on in terms of Epic and Rad. I did find an interesting article that I'm not sure if there's any correlation, but the PC market had its first big growth in 10 years. So in the year 2020, PC shipments went up by 11%. Now, obviously, COVID and remote working had an impact on that, but but based on the numbers that we just saw on Steam from late last year, which it was incredibly high, way higher than it's ever been in the past, more and more people playing PC games, the previous generation Xbox and PlayStation on their last legs, I mean, at the end of their lifespan, I don't think a lot of this percentage jump is from PC gaming, but I think a good chunk of it is. I think you could take a couple of percentage points out of this and say, well, that's components for building a PC. So I mean, to me, that's great news. That you've got, again, it's hard to pin down exactly because it's an overall percentage number, but I doubt that all 11% growth from 2019 is all, work computers and, Lenovo Yoga laptops and stuff like that. There is definitely a portion of that is those higher end desktops or laptops that people are playing video games on.
And probably 1 million Chrome based devices for all these kids that were starting school. So
yeah, there's a whole bunch of that stuff, but
pick those up.
But I mean, you've got more, but let's be clear though. There's a lot of games that don't require a GTX, 2000 or 3000 series GPU. There's a lot of people, Brian, that play games like Rocket League, Minecraft, CS:GO, and even older games. You can play those on new integrated graphics, 10th or 11th generation i5s and i7s. Those Intel built-in graphics cards are more than capable of playing some of those older games, and even some newer games like Rocket League that aren't crazy resource intensive. So, again, to me, this just seems like this is just another, I don't know if you'd call it a feather in the cap of the PC gaming market, but just another indication. We've seen the number with Steam, the incredible success with Steam over the past year in terms of their concurrent players. You've seen the success with individual games. Rust is the first one that comes to mind. Ark is now branching off to a TV series and a second game. There just seems to be a lot of good stuff going on in the PC gaming community, and I really do think that the lack of availability for Xboxes and PlayStations and obviously there's a huge issue on the PC side with GPUs. You literally can't get them.
Yeah, trying to get the newest video graphics cards. But one thing I'm wondering too is, do you think that this series of Xbox and PlayStations will never kind of get back to its potential, even when they start becoming available? Do you think that enough people are going to switch to PC that they'll have actually a much lower sales number than if they actually would have delivered on the number of consoles they were supposed to after launch?
No, I don't think that's the issue. I think there's a shift away from consoles. The exclusives have dried up. We talked about this extensively.
Yeah.
You look at the Xbox and PlayStation right now. There are, like, between both systems, both MSRP at over $500. That is without a game or their live service. There are a literal handful of exclusive games across both platforms. One of the exclusives is a game that's been out on the PlayStation for freaking 3 years, Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So why would you go and spend $700 or $800 on a console when you can go and either get a pre-built, like the guys in chat are mentioning, the CyberPower and iBuyPower and Origin PC and Mag, whatever they are, main gear. I mean, there's all even Dell, Alienware, Origin, all these different places where you can get these pre-builts and gaming laptops. I mean, you're not far off. You can build or buy a used computer and slap a GPU in it for not much more than an Xbox or a PlayStation. I mean, there's been Linus Tech
and even that
done
Game
plenty of
Pass.
videos.
I think you get a lot of people that have the Game Pass that now all of a sudden maybe they weren't PC gamers. They can just, with Windows, the Xbox app is usually automatically installed. If they log in with their live account, all of a sudden it says, "Hey, here's," I don't know how many. I'd have to look at how many PC games there are, but here's a whole stack of PC games that you could install at no charge. And they could start trying that out. Once you get kind of used to it, then a new game comes out. If it'll run on your system, you're much more likely just to install it on PC. When if they've never quite done that seems like a big step. And then I think once they get on there and they realize, oh, this isn't that bad. And you can hook up a controller. You can move your Xbox controller over to your PC. It's a very similar experience.
Now, I'm not making a recommendation on this, but I just went to Slick Deals for the hell of it. And one of the front page deals that they're running right now is a Dell XPS i5 10400, which is the 10th generation i5, 6-core, 8 gigabytes of DDR4 2666 memory, a 256 gig M.2, and an NVIDIA 1660 Super for $600.
Yeah.
Would you, personally, this, and Dell, I don't know what the Dell XPX desktops look like, but if they're, nevertheless, $600 for an Xbox or PlayStation, or $600 for a Dell XPS desktop. To me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
I mean, this computer is, and again, this is the first thing I saw. This is with no research whatsoever. This is a fantastic deal. Is it the best gaming computer on the market? No. But again, the plethora of games
that are looking for.
But the plethora of games available on PC Epic Game Store is still giving away a game a month for free. There are deals on GOG and G2A and all of these other services all the time. Steam is running sales freaking 6 times a year, plus the weekly deals. I mean, to me, it's just a no-brainer. You get a little Xbox dongle to hook up a controller, and you're good to go. There's no monthly subscription for a live service. I just don't... Without exclusives, there's no reason to buy an Xbox or a PlayStation. It's the only reason. They don't look good. They're big. They're expensive. They're a pain in the ass. You never update them because you don't play them enough. You pay monthly to use them. They suck.
Yeah.
But they have exclusives. You have no choice. You want to play Halo, you got to get an Xbox. You want to play Uncharted, you want to play Last of Us, you got to get a PlayStation. There are no exclusives for these systems right now. You'd be a moron to go out and buy one. In my opinion, they're just, you got to play freaking NBA.
And that's the thing is I've still been waiting for, first of all, availability on the Xbox and then a reason to go buy the new one, because I don't think that I'd see anything different other than a little bit of ray tracing on a game or two. There's just nothing pulling people there. So I think that the PC market is going to continue going strong until maybe a really good exclusive comes along that actually tests the new console hardware. But I've seen no hint of those happening in the near future. There's no giant games. I mean, the new Hitman's coming out, a few things like that.
Yeah.
But like Cyberpunk, for instance, was not a game that really was trying to get cutting edge graphics. I mean, they were trying to be cutting edge in the size of the world and some of the other things, but it's not pushing the graphics at all.
Yeah.
So I just don't think there's not that title out there right now that just will make your jaw drop and be a true showcase of the technology that's in those consoles.
Agreed. And I think that is, I think that like, I'll pick one of these up at some point. I'm sure you will. But it'll be significantly cheaper. It'll be at a deep discount. I will eventually pick up an Xbox or a PlayStation. Maybe I think so. Maybe I won't. I don't know. I've had the opportunity to purchase a couple of them because they are actually available. If you follow like IGN Deals has got a Twitter account and Cheap Ass Gamer's got a Twitter account, and they regularly post when they're back in stock at either Best Buy or GameStop or Amazon or Walmart or Target, wherever it may be. And I've had them in my carts before just to see if I can get one. I just haven't bought one. I don't have any interest because there's literally nothing to play. And again, you look at this computer right here, this Dell XPS for $600. It's a hard. You can take this for $600, which again isn't the most, earth-shattering, spec-breaking system in the world, but that will play a majority of what you want to play at a decent frame rate and decent specs. And it's got modular and it's upgradable. It's only got 8 gigs RAM. Okay, that's a fixable thing. Buy a new memory. It's cheap.
Yeah.
The drive's a little bit small. Buy a new M.2. I mean, you can for $800, you can have a pretty banging computer. Again, not necessarily even that one. I haven't done any research. This is not an endorsement of this Dell XPS, but to me, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
And look at Facebook Marketplace too. I mean, there's
a lot of local things that people can grab.
I've been buying a lot of cool stuff and selling some cool stuff on Facebook Marketplace. It's really, Craigslist was a very weird website and I didn't have much success. I got screwed a couple times. It just wasn't great. Facebook Marketplace has been fantastic. There's a lot of great stuff for sale.
I know the guy who used to be our sheriff here, and he went to go buy something online. And he went to go meet the person, and it just seemed really fishy. And he's the sheriff. He didn't tell that, of course, this wasn't in the them doing the agreement of selling this thing. The person didn't know, but it just seemed really fishy. And so he's pulling up, and he's like, okay, they're wanting to meet in a weird place that's secluded, and all this stuff just didn't seem right. So he calls in officers, and it ended up they were going to try to rob him, and they didn't realize they were trying to rob the sheriff of the city, the head sheriff. So there's just you got to be careful. Things like that. You don't want to go meeting people to do transactions. And so, Facebook Marketplace, I think has done, from what I can tell, a better job of kind of having it seem like it's on the up and up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm scrolling through, I just went on my Facebook Marketplace right now and I just searched gaming PCs near me. I mean, there is a dozen or so computers. This one right here is an i7 6700, 16 gigs of RAM with an NVIDIA 1060 for $650. I mean,
Yep.
that's a hell of a deal. Again, older generation hardware, I get it. I've got a GPU that's not much better than that, but I would much rather have that than an Xbox or a PlayStation right now.
Yeah.
2 years, 3 years, that may change, depending on what games are available. But I don't know. I don't even remember what we were actually talking about. But to me, it seems like
Growth in the PC gaming market. So.
Yeah, perfect. Yes, and so I read that article as a good thing for PC gaming. Don't know if there's any correlation. Don't really care. That's my story. I'm sticking to it. That's what everybody else gets to do. So why can't I do that?
Well, hey, let's segue that really quickly into AMD has announced new gaming chips at the recent CES that
Happening
they did.
now.
So there's
virtual.
Yes, and so that's the Ryzen 5000 Zen 3 series. It's going to be mobile and desktop gaming chips. So first of all, it's going to launch in about 150 laptop models starting in February, which of course on those they're talking about how it's going to use a lot less battery, be very efficient on that. But this is going to be, they're coming out with new chips. AMD, when it comes to game or CPUs, has really made up for a lot of being behind the market, behind Intel for so many years. And they're actually coming out and being preferred for the first. I mean, you guys used to tease me about my heater here.
I have the same heater.
The room. Yeah. But AMD seems to have really made a big change. A lot of it having to do with the fact that Intel was taking so many shortcuts that really caught up with them once all these vulnerabilities started being found in their chips because of the shortcuts that they were taking. And AMD wasn't taking those shortcuts. And so a lot of hosting companies, cloud providers had to switch to AMD chips because all of these big vulnerabilities found in Intel chips, which really helped their market. And now they're putting out chips that run cooler, run faster, and are cheaper than a lot of the Intel alternatives. So that's something to keep an eye out for, which might drop the price of what we consider now current generation CPU for AMD. Once these start coming out, that'll drop, and you'll be able to get something faster for a little bit less here in the near future.
If you're looking for something interesting to watch, because obviously after this show, Linus Tech Tips did a video today showcasing Asus's CES 2021 lineup, and I believe there were 7 or 8 laptops showcased. All but one had AMD CPUs. Yep. These are laptops.
Which is unheard of.
AMD
3-4 years ago, unheard of.
3-4 years ago, 10 years ago, AMD CPUs in laptops have never been popular. The AMD Athlon series, which was the mid 2000s, like 5, 6, 7, was the last time you saw AMD chips in laptops, because the FX series sure as hell wasn't going in laptops. And so crazy to see Asus, their entire line of high-end work and middle-end gaming laptops all using AMD CPUs. Intel it must be like a fire inside of Intel right now. I mean, they must, you ever seen that episode of SpongeBob where he's inside of his brain and everything's burning down and it's all little hymns burning everything and running around? That's what Intel's got to look like right now. They are losing everything. Yep. Everything. Laptops now. Well, Intel has owned the laptop market for close to 15 years. There has been no competition.
I don't know how much of it is the fact that now they're having to figure out how do we get something close to the performance while actually having it secure. They're having to redo how they've done everything for many, many years. And I'm having a feeling that they're struggling with getting those performance gains and actually putting out a chip that's faster than their previous chips, with all the security enhancements in place. So we'll see if they actually catch up, but they've got to be redoing a lot of things over there, where AMD has been trying to catch up in the legitimate way without taking shortcuts. Well, that's paid off for them 100% now.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
They have faster chips without having all the shortcuts and the cheats, and they didn't have to redo everything, and now they're on top.
Yeah. Subdivision says, I've had my Ryzen 9, which is the Ryzen 9 5950X for months on hold. They told me it was originally going to ship January 7th. Now I'm told possibly July. Yeah, those high-end AMD chips are very, very hard to get your hands on.
And I've been buying AMD chips since the 90s. So I remember one of my first PC. Oh yeah, one of my first PCs I built. Someone's like, "Oh yeah, this is an AMD chip. It's cheaper." And it was I was in junior high, if I remember correctly, and had an AMD chip about that big, and I've been using them ever since. And I think I've maybe had a laptop or two with an Intel in it, but that's it.
AMD was the first one to break the 1 gigahertz mark, which
legitimately
break the 1 gigahertz mark.
Yeah.
Intel did it, but it wasn't legit. AMD actually broke the 1 gigahertz mark first.
I remember when they told us that they couldn't go over 100 megahertz. I remember it was in PC Magazine. They talked about you cannot go over 100 megahertz. And the reasoning was it would be impossible to keep the heat down and go over 100 megahertz on a chip. And then look where we're at now. They really have no clue what they're talking about.
Big Woody Saw says they had computers and Brian was in junior high. I believe Brian built that computer. He's describing before I was even born, depending on what the year was. If it was prior to 97, I wasn't even a dream in my father's
I remember when I was 16 for my 16th birthday. I got a motherboard. It was a 386, but I got a motherboard with a 386 on it. That was my own computer. It wasn't one in the family room. Wasn't one I had to share. I had one that actually got to put in my room by myself. I built it. It was great.
That's when the criminality started. It never, it never stopped. That's when the Chris Hansen started and it never stopped.
Oh, no.
So let's see. So yeah, I tell you what, man. I say it about video games with Epic versus Steam and Unreal versus Unity. It's same thing with AMD versus Intel. These two companies in a pissing match over who's better is going to drive up production quality and down costs for us consumers. It is a win-win. Doesn't matter how you slice it. I don't care if you say anything else. You're flat out wrong. This has been nothing. Yeah. The fact that AMD had gotten their ass kicked for so long by Intel made the incredible Ryzen series that you're seeing right now. I can't tell you the last time I watched a YouTube video where they were showcasing an Intel chip. Every channel, Jay's 2 Cents, Linus Tech Tips, Gamers Nexus, it doesn't matter. They are all featuring AMD because it's the hot thing on the market and it's the only company that's innovating right now. The Intel 10th generation chips are the same garbage it's been the same design since the 7th generation, which was Skylake or Kaby Lake, whatever it was. And they have done nothing besides incremental upgrades, and it's really starting to show. And they will come back on top. They'll slingshot. Intel will come out with the next hottest thing. AMD will be back chasing, but it's only going to be great for us.
Yep. It'll be the competition. We talk about this in so many areas. Competition does nothing but help you. And I guess that kind of segues back to the original thing that we talked about, where you have a couple companies kicking out any form of competition. It's not making their products better. Yeah. Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, all these companies that are constantly trying to silence people they don't agree with, or companies that are competition to them. It's not improving them whatsoever. If they allowed competition to happen, it would make these companies become better. And that's what makes the PC market. It makes the gaming market. That competition is what makes it grow and makes it good. So if there was no AMD, do you think Intel would be anywhere where we are with CPUs?
No, we'd
wouldn't have anything
386s.
we'd be running. Oh yeah, we never get to go over that 100 megahertz barrier. Sorry, couldn't do it. We'd still be doing that stuff if there were no competition, because they'd have no reason to make something better. So I just they'd slowly increase it. They'd go this is the 1 megahertz upgrade. Versus trying to compete with somebody and beat their chip. And so I just think that this competition is good. I'm assuming Intel will bounce back somewhat at some point, because if they don't, that I don't want them slowing AMD down. I want this pace going to where we get the best computers we can in my lifetime.
Yeah, which if the past is any indication of the future, that's the exact way we're heading, because it's a full-on sprint now between these two companies. Let's talk about Nintendo for a second, Brian. This article was rather surprising to me. I didn't realize that the Nintendo Switch only launched in China in late 2019, which is crazy to me. But since it's
which is a perfect market for them,
very good market,
because we've talked about it in the past. mobile gaming over there is the big thing. They don't tend to have PCs like we have PCs over here, where this is something that the government can kind of control because there is a limited amount that you can do on the Switch versus a full computer. But this mobile gaming over there is something to where you can get near PC level games, and a lot of PC games that actually work on this, and that works on a little mobile device.
So, since it launched in 2019, they have shipped over 1 million consoles inside of China. Now, a group estimates that there are actually 4 million units in the country, Brian, and that prior to them being on sale, there was about 3 million units imported into the country because it just wasn't available for purchase. But that it outsold Microsoft and Sony as the biggest consoles, and which again isn't surprising, just due to the culture of China. Consoles are not a rather popular thing. That's why mobile gaming is so popular. But it's pretty cool to see that the Switch, which I think is probably Nintendo's best console since the Wii was a good system, but realistically, probably like the N64 is great. It's a very, very cool system.
I mean, the Wii systems were very gimmicky, and they couldn't run.
And
they couldn't run modern games. Yeah, but they couldn't run modern games. I mean, they would do some unique things, but if you tried to run a modern game on it, I remember there's this kind of a zombie game that I got on the Wii U, and the thing just was so pixelated. Like, yeah, Zombie U. It just didn't work very well. It was horrible, and that's when it was brand new. So it wasn't made. It was made for some gimmicky things that ran Nintendo games great. But once you kind of left the Nintendo games, it was a crapshoot. So
absolutely. So very, very cool stuff there from Nintendo. If you want to read a little bit more about that story or that article, I would highly recommend you go to our website, infectionpodcast.com. You can also follow us on Gab at Infection Podcast, or on YouTube, BitChute, DLive, Twitch, Telegram, soon maybe amateur radio. We're available with a tin can and a piece of string. I mean, you can literally get us anywhere. Just say Infection Podcast loud enough and you'll tune into us one way or the other. So that is what's going on over at Nintendo.
Now, so let's talk really quick about Star Wars. I know you love Star Wars.
Yeah, big but that fan. Is a big thing. I've seen all the movies, the whole thing. Yeah, big fan.
So there's been some big changes happening. First of all, there was a lot of stuff going on politically with Disney and Star Wars and everything that created a lot of controversy for big fans of Star Wars.
Explain that. What? Go back. Disney bought Lucasfilms, which correct. Go back. Little history for us.
Yeah. So Disney, got to where they had the rights to create the films. They started changing the stories and kind of doing things in a way so that it would be, the term is woke, so that, they didn't really follow. There's a lot of lore. A lot of people who aren't Star Wars fans don't realize a lot of this lore is already written. There's tons and tons of books being made about Star Wars. There's ones that become official canon. That means that it's the official lore of the whole Star Wars story that goes into films, maybe games, things like that. And they started putting some things in to the last couple Star Wars that just were opposite of what was happening in the Star Wars world, and a lot of people got very upset. There's been talk that they're going to redo and undo some of the last Star Wars films that were made, so that they're not official canon anymore, and remake them so that they do the end story correctly, rather than doing the way that was the most social justice warrior friendly, I guess you could say, because a lot of people didn't like what was happening. It didn't make sense, and they weren't good characters. But they've, with the success of Disney Plus, and there's been a lot of politics even with the Mandalorian series. There is Gina Guerrero, I think her name is, who is a wrestler but plays a character in that. All she did was say that she agrees with gun rights. Social justice people have been trying to get her kicked off the show since she's been on there, because she agrees that people should have the right to have a gun. They've been attacking her, trying to get kicked off of the show. It's just a mess. And they've one thing I'll give props to Disney on is they've kept her on the show because she's a good character in the show. Her personal beliefs in that area, which is 100% legal, is she's not doing anything illegal by agreeing with the Constitution, at least not yet, right? So, so she should have the ability to have that belief and work at Disney. Now they're starting to come back and say, all right, all that stuff has not worked. Just because those people are loud doesn't mean that there are fans. And I think that a lot of these companies are starting now. You say woke, they're actually waking up to the fact that you don't have to bend the knee to all these people just because they're loud and on the internet. And a lot of these gaming blogs have been infiltrated by these people, and they're realizing that the people actually that buy their products are normal, everyday people. So this is something where now they're going to be redoing, and their Star Wars games are going to be branded under Lucasfilms again, and they're going to be doing pretty much all the Star Wars games will be released under this. And this is, I think they're kind of going back there. Now there's a sizzle reel. I don't know if you want to play that really quick, kind of showing off a lot of the Lucasfilm games. It's fairly short, but this is something they just put out in the last couple of days.
Lego Star Wars was always a lot of fun. I always enjoyed those.
Yeah, they're good.
Execute Order 66.
Red Group, you're our heavy hitters.
You've done it. The tunnels are open. Get in and attack the station core.
Minecraft! All right. So Lucasfilm Games.
Yes. So you'll start seeing now, I don't know, we'll see how much other things might come into this because they had Monkey Island. They had a lot of things that were shut down when Disney took them over in 2013. Mm-hmm. This will be interesting to see if we start seeing some of these others. Now there is, I guess one way that we can kind of tease this next thing is that there was actually an announcement about Indiana Jones.
Yes.
And this is something that but no, this is with Bethesda. But if I remember correctly, this would be under the Lucasfilm, right?
It is.
So wouldn't it be under Lucasfilm here? So this is something that under this new, a part of this, something we weren't expecting to see. So I guess they are going to start bringing some of these back. But there's I don't know. Can you play that video? There's just a little teaser, 33-second teaser video here.
The magic number.
Of course, this is a Twitter video. But
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm playing this off my local hard drive. See the Lucas Games logo on the camera.
Yeah.
Brian, I'd like something I'd like to tell you.
Yeah. Have you never seen? Wait a minute. Have you ever seen Indiana Jones?
I watched the first Indiana Jones movie like 3 weeks ago. It was very good.
Oh my goodness.
It was good.
It
was good. I watched it. It was good. I enjoyed it. It was the first one. I don't remember what it was called, but it was the first one. It was good.
Well, you I'm sure we could arrange for you to watch the rest of them.
I already have the rest of them. I just Big Woody Sauce says Indiana Jones is so bad. PH says it's overrated. Man, they're just getting ripped to shreds in the chat.
I don't know. Some people really enjoy the series. It's not something
it.
where I've watched them multiple times, but they're interesting stories.
Yeah, I mean, the first one was good. I enjoyed it. It was I mean, I'm not going to give a review of it, but it was an interesting story. It went ups and downs and ebbs and flows.
Do you think this might be their answer to Uncharted?
It's interesting. Maybe. I hope this doesn't turn into some sort of Far Cry, though, because when I can see an Indiana Jones game pretty much just being a Far Cry, and I know that Bethesda isn't Far Cry, but a Far Cry with skinned as wherever he is in the world, Africa, Middle East, wherever he may be. So yeah, I hope it would be more of and again, this is Bethesda behind it. I know Fallout 76.
Because Uncharted isn't that a Sony exclusive, if I remember correctly.
Uncharted is a Sony thing. Yep, it is.
And so it'd be interesting to see if this may be, because this would be Bethesda, so it would be Xbox. That's what I'm saying. I wonder if this is going to be Microsoft's Xbox answer to the Uncharted, which is Sony, one of their most popular and bigger series of games that they have on the PS.
Now, it's funny because I believe there were a couple of Indiana Jones games for the PlayStation 2 or 3 that were exclusives. I think it was the PlayStation 2. There were a couple of Indiana Jones games for the PlayStation 2, and now I saw some people saying on Twitter like, "Oh, funny how the pendulum swings." Now, in all likelihood, it will be an Xbox and PC exclusive for this next one. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, cool. I mean, obviously there's literally nothing in the trailer besides a whip sound effect and somebody grabbing their hat. But if anything, this is it's going to be a AAA title. AAA release. But the mixture between Bethesda and Lucas Arts/Games are two massive companies. Incredible amount of lore and intellectual property available. To me, it seems like this will probably be. Hopefully, this is a great game and something that I don't think. When did the last Indiana Jones game come out? Like 20 years ago? I mean, I don't even know. Like I can't. When did the last movie come out? Like it's not a currently thriving IP.
I think the last time a game came out was in 2009. So in 2009, there was a game.
Lego?
Then there was a no. So there was Indiana
okay.
Jones and the Staff of Kings came out in 2009. 2008, one of the Lego ones came out. 2003, one of those like the first one, a non-Lego one came out for Indiana Jones. And then before that, it was and then there was another one in 2009 for Legos.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was since 2008. There's pretty much three Indiana Jones. Two of those were Lego ones.
Yeah, so I mean, you're talking about
not very many.
No, and when did the last movie come out? It's been a hot minute.
Yeah,
sorry to put you on the spot.
No, the last movie that came out, it was 2008. Now they are making one. They're making Indiana Jones 5 next year. They're releasing that.
And prior to
this game, probably is kind of going to correlate a little bit with the new Indiana Jones movie, and then they'll have a game. But before that, 2008 was the latest.
Well, but prior to 2008, it was 1989. So you're talking about a 20-year span between those. It's just a very, I would make the argument, probably one of the most well-known IPs, and everybody knows what Indiana Jones is. We've heard literally nothing about it in 20 years, and then all of a sudden, obviously you mentioned there's a movie and thing, and then Bethesda and Lucas decide, hey, let's do this. We're gonna make a game. This will be cool. This will be. I don't know when it's gonna be out, but this is a game to look forward to for sure. Hopefully, it's Doom caliber.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll be interesting. It's kind of hard to know what kind of style they'll go with because there's so many ways that they can kind of take that story. I mean, quality. As far as
I mean, these when Bethesda makes a game. you expect a certain level of quality, and I hope that a game like this with such a
that they actually keep up with it.
Yeah, and I think they will. I have no reason to believe they won't. So that's very cool. It was Twitter was freaking. That video has 5.5 million views on Twitter. But Bethesda just tweeted out the video, no context, it's just literally the video. So that was pretty cool to see.
Hey, do you want me to announce our game giveaway here really quick?
Yes, absolutely. What do you got?
All right, so if you type !giveaway in chat, I'm giving away a copy of Pathological 2, which has very positive ratings. Came out about a year ago, in 2019. I guess a little over a year ago now. But this is usually it's a $35 title. With the Steam sale going on, it's 50% off right now, so you can get about for $18. But this is one that's publisher was Tiny Build, made by Ice Pick Lodge. It's a story-rich, choices matter RPG atmospheric game. So looks like it's good. I'll put a link here in a chat for the Steam if you want to check that out. But I'm giving away a copy of Pathological 2.
All right. Real quick, let's take a look at Arc. Just one update this past week. 320.57 fixed an exploit that allowed family share accounts to play on family share prohibited servers. So huge issue there. But they have apparently resolved that. So that was the only update.
Because there's some weird little glitching issues and things that people can do.
Yeah, with the family share
thing.
So that is that's all we've got from Arc, and yeah, just one update this past week.
Well, we'll see if that changes here. Hopefully, they continue to support that as they work on the new Arc server. But we will see, or the new Arc game. All right. Do you have a preference where we go from here?
No. Steal the ship.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about quickly Last Oasis. Now this is a game that we've talked about, some of the things going on in the future, but they did tease some things about what's coming in 2021. This is something where they kind of had a little bit of a rough start at the beginning, and they had a delay in patches and trying to get things fixed and working correctly once they went public. But what they're going to be doing in 2021, first of all, they are talking about a new map that's arriving here in the first quarter. One thing is it's going to be offering different ways for players to explore. Also, they're going to be adding some new enemies in quarter one, and some features requested by the community, and they're releasing to Xbox. So that'll be a big thing for them, getting out on Xbox. Be interesting to see if maybe it'll be in the Game Pass. I would not be surprised if it was in the Game Pass. Now they don't have a date for this, but we will see as they go on. But that's kind of things to look forward to. Xbox, new map, new enemies, and then some features. Now they don't say specifically what it is because this is just a statement by them, but they will be having some specific features, requested by the community. So that is our Last Oasis news.
How many people do you think are playing Last Oasis right now on Steam?
Right at the second, or on right the second.
How many people?
What do you think? 500 maybe.
You are way off. It's almost 2,000. 18.
Oh, really? So they've been growing.
They have.
So they've been picking up some of their numbers. Good.
Yeah, when I loaded the page when you were talking, I was fully expecting it to be like 5, 6, 7, 800. But they've got almost 2,000 people playing right now. Their weekly peak's about $3,000. It's not a huge game, obviously, but 2,000 active players on a Tuesday night. Again, compared to all of the other games that we talk about, there are many of those games that are well under 2,000 concurrent players. So there is obviously some active users. It does still struggle from bad Steam reviews. It's only sitting at a 65% recommendation rate. So that is something.
And I think as they start, especially if they get Xbox and they make it to where it has crossplay, I think that'll make it to where, because the thing they need is players. This is similar to Ark, similar to Rust. This game relies on other players, for PvP and competition and that drive. I think once they release on Xbox, if they have it to where it's cross-platform, I think that'll make this game skyrocket to where when you log into a server, there are people there that you're battling against and you're trying to avoid, and because the game isn't the same. It's not the same when you're on a server by yourself or there's very few people on the server.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Atlas is a great example.
Oh yeah, I mean
of a game.
that's an example of them now trying to figure out how do we come back from this. You make something that's made for, and this server is very similar to where these maps are made for thousands and thousands of people, but if you've got 500 people on there, well, that makes the game feel very, very empty. Where that wouldn't be the same if you had Arc servers and only a couple of servers. You'd have the servers would seem full. Here, this is made to handle a ton of people. I think if they get Xbox on there, the maps will feel full to where they get that competition between the different groups.
Yeah, absolutely.
Another thing, so we'll talk about another game that we talk about every once in a while, Star Citizen. They have acquired a perpetual license for Crytek CryEngine for developing Star Citizen. There was a little bit of a legal fight between them and Crytek, and so this is something that 2 years they had a 2-year long legal battle between their parent company CIG and Crytek, and they have managed to get a perpetual license for this. I think a lot of it came down to, if I remember correctly, I'm not sure if it's in here, but I think that they were looking at going to the Lumberyard engine with Amazon. And I think that this created a big problem because they developed so much under Crytek or under CryEngine, and then we're looking at switching. I think that's what kind of kicked this whole thing off. But they have purchased this license, and we'll see. This makes it so that hopefully the conflicts between them go away, and because they were doing a copyright infringement suit and all kinds of stuff with them, and so this might be a little bit of a hint that they've managed to straighten that out and just said, "Hey, buy this license, and then you can continue developing."
Is the game on CryEngine now?
I thought they were switching. I mean, they started it, and I think they were talking about switching it, but then I think they were told that they couldn't.
You can't just switch your engine, though. I mean,
but at the time they could have, because Crytek, CryEngine, and Lumberyard took CryEngine and then has been rebuilding it.
No, I thought they took Unreal.
No. Lumberyard is based on a version of CryEngine. So what CryEngine did, CryEngine did a little bit of a trick here. They had their current version. They then sold a copy of it to Lumberyard, and then right after that released their next big release. And so they made the one that they sold Lumberyard. It was immediately outdated and it didn't have any of the new features. And then they put out this new one. So yeah, so they sold them that and then pretty much made a whole new release. And then people at that time, they were close enough, they could have more easily probably switched to CryEngine or to Lumberyard, because the new CryEngine was totally different. They'd have to sit there and then get their game to work in the new CryEngine, because they sold their old CryEngine. So it's a weird thing that happened, but it created some weird legal issues, because at that time, Amazon was putting in the networking features that CryEngine never did. It would have been easier for these companies to switch over to Lumberyard, but the downside is they would have been restricted to only using Amazon AWS. That's the trade-off. You have to use Amazon Web Services, which, hey, imagine if you have maybe a conservative-leaning video game. Can you even release? I mean,
stop up! Burn you at the stake.
I mean, imagine the legal fights that you'll run into someday when you've built a whole game and then you go to release it and they say, "Oh, well, we're not going to let you put this on this engine because we don't agree with your politics."
Yeah, I heard you voted for Trump in 2016.
It's opening up huge bad things that could possibly happen by Amazon owning these things and then locking you into their services. Well, what if you make a game and then they lock you into their services and they're not allowed to actually publish your game because they won't let you use their servers? It's just weird.
You know, Brian, why don't you go build your own Amazon? All right? Just go build your own. Go build your own Amazon. Go build your own mom and pop Amazon. Yeah, go do it.
This is something that someone was bringing. Well, why don't you just make? What's it going to? What would it take to make your own data centers? I was like,
you out of
the fact you asked that question, it means that you have no clue how much goes into making a data center. They're like, you could make one, and just get a building. It's like, no. First of all, internet. How are you going to get internet to it? And if you're worried about people not being able to shut you down, well, what if the 2 internet providers you manage to get there decide that they don't want to serve you anymore? Then you have a building that has a bunch of servers in it with nothing. It's not what people think.
Elon Musk, he's got all the plans. Speaking of legal fights, Chronicles of Elyria, their players are vowing that the lawsuits are going forward. We saw a couple weeks ago that we had that big Cryfest video a couple weeks ago of, oh, we've been working on the game and it's COVID and all this other nonsense. And there's a player-run Discord that what is going to be a class action lawsuit originated on. And there was a post here from just a couple days ago that the lawyer is that they're still a legal group actively working on the case, and they are pushing forward even with Chronicles of Elyria, saying what they laid off all their staff, but there's still one guy, like the main guy is still working on it, I think.
Yeah, the guy who started it.
Yeah, so he's still working on it, but the group says regardless of the state of the game, we are still proceeding with the class action lawsuit. So I think the idea,
the thing that I think is funny is he says, we're intentionally showing low quality gray box assets, that aren't going to be in the final product. You're promising a product that is so big that it wouldn't be worth your time putting in gray box assets for every single object. If you haven't started switching those out by now, you're not going to. What they've seen is going to be probably very close to the final. If there was a final product, if there is a final product, it's probably very close to what you see. And him telling you that it's any different, especially when there's only one person now working on the game, is definitely not accurate.
It's bogative would be the accurate word to use. So I think the idea with releasing that video was, oh, we're still working on it, can't sue us. And
I think he's going to find that that's not how law works.
Well, yeah, and I'm
very surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. How much you trust on take a Discord post as gospel. I get it. But at the end of the day, if a legal group, a group of lawyers or a legal team believes that they can win some money, which has to be the key, right? You're going to sue Chronicles of Elyria if they don't.
How much money does he have left? It's a single individual person.
Yeah, I mean, and
has he managed to spend everything, or do somehow get it into offshore accounts or whatever? There may be nothing to take, and what are you going to do? Just bankrupt? He'll just file bankruptcy and move on.
Correct.
So you'll end up with nothing.
I'm not trying to discourage the legal battle. I think there should be one. If this guy truly was as misleading.
This is the danger of kickstarting and crowdfunding and all this stuff. You're dealing with people, not companies. If you're dealing with a large company and you went to go sue them, they're not going to fold EA Games in order to avoid your lawsuit. Here, since this company is now down to one person
who's not being paid,
who's not being paid, the most you could get is maybe his rights to, they may get the rights to his video game.
Oh, great.
But this is really nothing outside of whatever he's creating. It's not like there's lore behind here that's really important. All he did was make a big list of every possible video game feature and said, yes, it'll be in the game. That's pretty much all he has done. And there's very little to show for it. There's nothing sellable out of what he's made. The assets, we've seen them. They don't look good. It's a bunch of smoke. It's smoke and mirrors is
you tell me
what we've seen so far.
You don't want to win this in a legal battle?
I mean, you take a couple talented people and you can make those exact scenes in a weekend. It's just...
Yeah, but Brian, there's 4 different versions of the game. There's an ASCII-based version, a Minecraft-based version, a regular quality version, and a high-quality version. You're missing.
What he should do is just release the game on Steam, and all you do is earn achievements, like Steam achievements for people that want to do that. It would sell copies. If you get a bunch of Steam achievements to raise your Steam badge level, he might as well do that now. He'll sell some copies. He'll make some money.
I mean, money.
It could be like that cookie clicker.
The guy's already raised millions of dollars and managed to piss it all away, and on what I don't know. So,
yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't think he's a bad guy, but he obviously
stepped in it.
He obviously was unable to estimate what it costs to build the world's biggest video game ever, misled and I guess misleading is lying in some way or form, lied or misled to people, and that might come back and bite him in the ass. I hope it doesn't. I mean, I don't want the guy to be in, financial bondage the rest of his life because of this. But if he truly screwed people over and it can be proven in court, then he deserves what he gets. I mean, you can't make promises to people like that and not live up to the contract essentially, and then expect to get away with it.
It's people like this that killed Kickstarter. I mean, it's these projects that have made it to where it's very difficult to crowdfund a game anymore because there's been too many of these unfulfilled promises. I mean, have a number of Kickstarter games I'm still waiting for the final release on, and they've been like 6 years in the making. Yeah, they're not going to come out.
No, probably not. But that's the risk you take. And we'll see if maybe there'll be a legal trend here of consumers going after Kickstarters. I don't know how that will work or if it will work, but could be an interesting trend if it works out. Maybe Brian, maybe we should contract our friend Saul and open up a video game law firm.
Yeah, all we do is sue Kickstarter titles.
Sue Kickstarter projects and people that misled people on their video games. Yeah, I mean, Saul, let me know. Hit me up if you're interested. I think it's we could get
go over well.
Pennies from these developers that are broke and have no money.
He says patent trolling. He's ready for this.
Yeah, there we go. Let's talk about Cyberpunk for a second. Speaking of this show is Brian, we really do. I think I might go back. You think? Let's do this. Donate to the program. I'll go to law school, and then because half the show has become talking about people suing and class action lawsuits. Yep. Polish regulators are investigating CD Projekt Red over the Cyberpunk 2077 launch. This claim from Poland's Office of Compliance and Consumer Protection is potentially looking at fines for the company due to the less than ideal launch of the game, and they're currently investigating it.
Can you sue for less than ideal? Is that now a thing?
It's not. Here's the thing: they're not suing. They're just going to assess a fine of consumer protection and privacy, or consumer protection and competition.
It doesn't make. I beat the game. I beat the main story yesterday. It's
really?
Not broken. It's not broken to where you can't play and beat the game.
Well, their concern is with the PS4 and Xbox One editions of the game, which
give those people refunds and say, we're not releasing it on these consoles.
Well, I mean, they already did.
Yeah,
but they're claiming right now that CD Projekt Red has not done enough to make those console editions sufficient, and it could fine the studio up to 10% of its annual revenue.
How in the world can they sue them? If you're going to fine me, I'll just say, all right, we're not going to offer it on those consoles.
I would just say you're not offering.
You can't find me now. We don't offer it on the PS4 regular. We only offer it on the Pro and the Series X, and up. Just say that. So we don't offer it for the lower consoles. If you purchase it on there, you're doing it at your own risk. But we don't officially support that as a console. And if they did that, people will still buy it. It'll still run, but not officially. And then people can't complain about it. Say, you didn't buy it on a series of console that we support.
Yeah,
you can't fine us for that.
The article at PC Gamer
at their own risk.
The article at PC Gamer indicates that there's almost no chance of this going forward with a 10% fine on their annual income. But nevertheless, they're investigating it. This isn't crazy. Australia has got a track record of doing this. They're incredibly strict with video games. And now you're seeing it from Poland. There was a New York firm that was looking at some sort of class action. I really do. I mean, if you guys are interested, donate. I'll go to law school and we can become an expert in all of these things that are going on, because it seems to take up a lot of time here on the old program. All right, this was interesting, Brian. A game that is a lot of fun. A game that, out of all of the battle royales that came out, had good success. One of the more popular, I would say, definitely within the top 5. You may have even be able to make the argument at one point the top BR game that was out. That was Apex Legends. Came out from EA. It was a little bit late in the cycle, but it had some very unique features when it first came out. It was the first game to have the respawn system the way that they did, where you would pick up a player's tag, bring it to a I don't know what they called the revive station. You would
whatever it was, revive station.
You'd come back in on this big airship thing, would come and drop you back off. Had that feature. had the ping system. It was the first mainstream game to have a really well-defined ping system. A lot of really cool things when that first came out. But obviously, as things are going forward, this genre has definitely lost a lot of its. I think it lost a lot of its hype. Lost a lot of
appeal,
lost a lot of its appeal. You can only run around and kill people in a battle royale while a gas is pushing you in so many times. It becomes very repetitive. But there is a leak that indicates that there is going to be a team deathmatch style mode coming to the King Canyons map soon, which is very interesting. We have seen many of these games not do anything in terms of, we've talked about this many of times. Games like PUBG, they need to adapt, and we haven't really seen that. And it looks like Apex might be the first ones to do it.
Yeah. I think if they could create enough of a variation in this where, because this is something I think, with Call of Duty, they've kind of tried to do it, but still, it's like a totally different game mode almost. It's not the same game mode. I think if you could get it to where this is just a game mode that's interchanged, to where you can add it, you can do a certain playlist. One is a BR style, the next one is a deathmatch style, and you could swap and go back and forth and be able to experience it and not have it be all that this game is. I think that for too long, they treated it as, this is going to be a whole new genre of game that's going to branch out. I think they're finding, no, why doesn't this become more closely with our team deathmatch? It's just a variation of team deathmatch. You don't have to make the maps so giant. You don't have to make the matches take, 45 minutes like they used to back in the day with was it H1Z1 and various games. They would take, some of the game matches would take forever. And a lot of people don't want to be tied down in a match. Create a game mode that goes very quickly and pushes you in, but it's just another game mode. You have in Call of Duty, you can have like a 15-minute match very easily. Have it to where you get the maps down to the size where it's a 15-minute match. It's a little bit of a different variation, but it's not the only game mode there is. People want more than that, and I think that that's what we're going to start seeing here pretty quickly. When it only takes a few leading the way. It'd be interesting to see though. Fortnite, they've been doing a lot of changes to their games. They're generally kind of the leader in some of these things. Are we going to see them start implementing? They have a whole new, different game mode that the whole thing started on. Are you going to see them release that, give people a variation to play that's not just Fortnite? Are you going to start seeing more of a deathmatch style happen that they have tested with certain limited game modes? I think that you'll start seeing this year. I have a feeling that you're going to see the major BRs starting to do this and create these more deathmatch styles and actually implement it into the main game.
I think Fortnite might be the only one that is kind of invincible to this because they have such dominance in the player base. PUBG has already.
I wouldn't be surprised if they did it just to kind of stay with everybody though, and not become the external person doing their own thing.
That's true. That's probably.
I think they want to stay close enough to where their competition, where they're still keeping ahead of these people and feeling their competition to them, rather than becoming the side thing. I think they want to be next to that so that they're pulling those players across. Because if they could become too much of a side thing, they don't have anybody to pull their players from. They got to get it to where they come out with this new thing. People maybe when they got kind of bored, they went over and played some Apex. Now, they came out with a whole new map. They've redone all their stuff. All those people that went to Apex come back for a while. They got to stay close so that when people go away, they're still close enough to come back.
I would like to play an Apex Legends TDM. I really enjoyed Apex. I just am very bad at BRs, and I think outside of, I don't even know if PUBG. I may have played more Apex Legends than any other BR, not counting H1Z1 because that was kind of different. But in all the main BRs, Fortnite, PUBG, ROE, I think I played the most Apex. So I really the gunplay was really good. The style was great. I really enjoyed it. It was a great game. Just I'm not good at BRs, and sucking at a game over and over again is just not ideal. So yeah, I hope this is true. It's a rumor. There's nothing confirmed. It's not official. But to me, it seems like the next step. Honestly, though, it's something that should have been probably already in the game. I'm not sure why it would have taken this long. This should have been in the game like a year ago. Like, why now?
I think that this is a good one to start with, though. I think that they're set up in a very good way, in a way that PUBG is not, because one thing that Apex has done is they have a lot of things to enhance movement. Much better.
Yes.
That's one thing that Fortnite has done very well. You know, they've added and removed things, but they have a lot of ways to quickly move around and not feel slow. Apex Legends is the exact same way, to where maybe in a smaller deathmatch style thing, you'd have a lot of people flying around and doing, moving to different areas of the map very quickly to create that kind of a Doom, quick paced, boom, 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 which is what people, if that's what you're going for, there's a lot of people that would be willing to play that style of game. To where if you did that with PUBG would feel too clunky and feel too slow, I think, in a deathmatch style of a game. I think with PUBG, you need it more spread out, because the gunplay and the movement isn't up to snuff compared to these other ones.
Well, PUBG doesn't allow multiple movement commands at the same time. Remember, we watched that video.
Yeah.
It's not built for this at all.
That's the reason that it just doesn't feel right. Where these other ones, you feel like you're quickly moving. With PUBG, it's like, oh, I'm running forward. Oh, okay, now I'm running back. Okay, now I'm running left. Now I'm running right. It's just, it doesn't feel right. And I think that these guys are set up to do that.
Apex always had. By the way, they were the first ones to have the slide system. That's a very big element of at least it was. I haven't played it in a while. The slide element was a huge part of Apex. You could slide down ridges, and it was a very, very cool thing. They had those big jetpack things that would boost you up into the air, similar to what Fortnite again adopted that same thing. So it was a really, really fun game. Just BR Burnout got the best of me. But this is cool news, and it's cool to see the BR genre adapting, because I do think outside of Fortnite, the pinnacle of BR has been is done. I don't see, at least right now, I don't see anybody doing anything in the BR space that is going to be so revolutionary and so cutting edge that it's going to pull a large enough user base. You're not going to create a new BR in 2021. I just don't see it. With any sort of mainstream wide success. I just don't see it. I don't think there's the player base for it.
Yeah. And I think with some of one thing that'll be interesting is with the enhancements we've seen to game engines and things, if we'll see a little bit different style of games coming out. I'd like to see, because we've been kind of stuck in this BR craze for a while, and all these games are in the BR style. The technology since BR started coming out, since H1Z1 King of the Kill and all this, and even whatever they had in not DayZ but in Arma, it's just the amount of things that have changed since then is crazy. Come up with a different game. We don't need to do a BR style. You could come up with something that's much more intricate, that has a lot more features, that's a lot more detail to it than the BR style, just with everything that's come out. So I'd like to see them get a little more inventive. It seems like when they get stuck on one of these things, they get stale. Now, Apex has done a good job of implementing a lot of new things, and I think that's why they're ready to now transition out of it, because they have so many features to where they're not locked into that BR anymore.
Bravo Norris says Ring of Elysium was slightly faster. Yeah, the Ring of Elysium was very and had a lot of.
They were one of the first ones to put movement. They were one of the first ones to put alternate movement in there. Now, Fortnite, of course, they had things that would let people kind of fly and glide. They didn't have bikes or cars initially. But Ring of Elysium, they put in those bikes, the snowboards, different gliding equipment, different things you could do. So they were one of the first ones to put in alternate transportations to make the game speed up between fights, because that's the downside of BRs, is when you have 5 minutes, 10 minutes between seeing another player, because you have to run to wherever they are, which is definitely how it used to be. That creates a lot of downtime. It makes it very difficult for streamers. One reason that Dr. Disrespect became so popular was somehow he was entertaining enough between finding people in H1Z1 that people didn't tune out, because it wasn't like, oh, this is a running simulator. He would entertain people. He would do all this stuff in the car. He was very good at getting from fight to fight much faster than your average player, and he made it entertaining, and that made a King of the Kill, or H1Z1 at King of the Kill, very entertaining early on. And now these games have kind of caught up and allowed players to more quickly get to fights to where they're streamable. But it's still, I think that having that more of a deathmatch style game is much better for streamers, and I think it'll be a lot easier for them to have that constant action and not feel like they're having to run from fight to fight just to keep people from tuning out.
I would definitely agree with that. So cool stuff from Apex Legends. Glad to see that they are hopping on the train and moving on to bigger and better things. We look forward to hopefully getting something official from them in the in the next little bit. This is pretty cool, Brian. Speaking of legal, Riot Games, and which 100% owned by Tencent, full disclosure, and Bungie, not owned by Tencent, I don't believe, have joined forces to sue Destiny 2 and Valorant cheat software makers. So they have
now Bungie is owned by Xbox Game Studios, by the way.
Okay, so it's owned by Microsoft. So it is not not Chinese, not Tencent. So they have filed a lawsuit against, I'm trying to see who, Gator Cheats. Cameron Santos is the individual. And they are they're suing this. It is a Gator Cheats. I've never heard of it. Gator Cheats costs $90 a month or $500 for lifetime access. The filing indicates that he's made tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars, and the companies are seeking to shut down the software developer, access to full accounting of sales, and like this guy kept good accounting. Full accounting of sales and services of software.
Well, who knows if he was using PayPal or something? They might be able to go to wherever he was processing these transactions and get a pretty close accounting of what happened if he wasn't using Bitcoin or some underground method.
Yes, and then being awarded statutory, and my favorite legal term, punitive damages, which is my favorite. So, two titans of gaming going after this poor guy. I mean, I hope he made some good money and was able to get it out of the country or into Bitcoin or something that is not traceable, because they are going to bend him over a barrel and steal and take. There ain't going to be anything left. So hopefully, I'm not encouraging. But this is what it's going to take to really get. This is what it's going to take, though. Now the problem is, a lot of these cheat makers are in places that aren't legally accountable. You have a lot of them coming out of China, which when China decides they want to go after you, that's not good to be them. But they let a lot of these things go as long as they're not doing too much inside of the country. But when you have hackers that are doing things, cheat makers that are doing things in countries that don't care, there's not a lot that you can do. I'm trying to see if they name the country. The doesn't say where it's located. It mentions California legal code, but I don't know if that's where. I don't know if that's where, because of where Bungie or Riot is headquartered. They're suing in the.
I would assume this guy is probably in the United States if they're coming at him like this.
Yeah, because they're suing in the U.S. District Court of Central District Court of California, but it doesn't seem to indicate. Doesn't say it doesn't. Normally, it'll say like Cameron Santos of blank. It doesn't say that. It doesn't indicate where he's from, but presumably he's in the United States. You're right, because they're not suing somebody outside the U.S. So, rest in peace to this guy. I mean, hopefully he's got some money to pay some legal fees, because he is about to get absolutely fucked by
I was
Bungie.
I was trying to find where he's from, and I'm not seeing it. So it'll be interesting to see how this.
It ain't gonna be a pretty sight. Maybe he can plead like insanity or something like that, because it is it ain't gonna be a pretty sight for him. So well, this is a good thing. Maybe this will be a maybe a wake up call, depending on how this rolls out in court. If they end up suing this guy and stealing not stealing, but taking him for everything he's worth, maybe this will be a heads up that these, because I mean, this is an expensive service. $90 a month. I mean, I don't think I pay $90 a month for any individual service. Like my power, my internet, my water, none of that stuff's $90 a month. I mean, that's a lot of money. So you're talking about some serious change you're dropping on this stuff to cheat. So we'll see. It'll be interesting to keep an eye on.
All right. You want to talk about Twitch here for a minute?
I would love to. Maybe. Yeah.
I'm sure you would.
Yeah.
All right. we'll see. This is a little bit political, but so Twitch on the 6 days ago removed the PogChamp emote. They said we can't, in good conscience, continue to enable the use of the image. And this is one of the emotes that you could do. And what they said, and this is interesting. They said the face of the emote called for unrest in support of a rioter who was shot and killed inside the U.S. Capitol.
So there's a bit of a backstory here. I'm actually very familiar with this gentleman. His name is Gutix. He runs a very popular and successful a fighting game network. It was a podcast and a YouTube channel back in the day. It's some sort of subscription-based service now. It's called Cross Counter. Unlike everybody that works at Twitch, and unlike everybody else that works in gaming, he is not a liberal. So that makes him public enemy number one. And he was tweeting out and posting some things about what went down in Washington, D.C. over the weekend, or late last week. And Twitch has decided to remove his emote, essentially because he posted an article and a link to a story about the lady that got shot and killed in the Capitol. He is not a progressive, so Twitch canceled him. I don't even know if he's a Republican. All I know is that he is not a bleeding heart liberal that is so brave and stunning to say fuck Trump on Twitter. He's not brave. He's not that stunning and brave like all the other assholes that work at Twitch. And all these other websites. So he's not brave enough. He doesn't have enough courage to say that. So they had to ban him. So that's where we stand right now. So again, he didn't do anything. He wasn't in Washington, D.C. He just literally posted a link to an InfoWars video, and Twitch removed him because they're a bunch of commie fucks. That's in reference to Twitch.
And this was, here's their statement at Twitch. They said, we've made the decision to remove the PogChamp emote following statements from the face of the emote encouraging further violence. I don't remember that. After what took place in the Capitol today. We want the sentiment and the use of the POG to live on. Its meaning is much bigger than the person depicted or the image itself, and it has a place in the Twitch culture. However, we can't in good conscience continue to enable the use of the image. Now, take 2 days later, there's another article that came out. Twitch now has decided they will rotate in a new PogChamp emote every 24 hours from now on. So they will take different streamers making that face, and they'll no longer be that person. They're trying to, total 1984, rewrite and make a new face for PogChamp because they don't want him to be known or anything referenced him to be known.
So you can look at this whale here that works at Twitch, Elisa Sweetman, definitely not, who is the director of creative social impact at Twitch. This is a quote from her LinkedIn. Normally, I only focus on work and career-related conversations on LinkedIn, but today, fuck Trump and the racists that elected him, the racists who continue to support him, and those who minimize the terrorism of today. So, this whale of an individual that works over at Twitch, who is so stunning and brave and beautiful, right? This is an employee of Twitch.
Yeah,
that's calling
attacking half of the
74 million Americans still employed.
Yep.
The guy that isn't even employed by Twitch, but posts an InfoWars link on his Twitter, gets his profile banned. Fuck Twitch. And the rest of these SJWs on the internet. This shit is ridiculous. And if you don't have a problem with this, you are part of the problem. Get the hell out of this stream. Turn us off. Don't listen to us ever again. You are part of the problem. Brian, this is insane. This guy he literally just posted a link on his Twitter. And you've got this cow over at Twitch saying fuck Trump and 74 million people.
Yep.
Seriously?
And that's
this is the age we live in? This is the age we live in. This is batshit crazy.
Problem.
This is what the whole internet has come. This is Kotaku, IGN, Game Informer, GameSpot. It's all of it. It's all turned into this wokeness. You're stunning and brave if you say fuck Trump and fuck people I don't agree with. That makes you stunning and brave. God forbid you have an opinion on the other side. You're a racist and a Nazi, and you deserve to be hung out back. That's acceptable conversation. But if you say, let's look into election fraud, or let's look into this, you deserve to be brought in front of a firing squad and shot and killed by these SJW douchebags that work at all these companies. Fuck Twitch. Fuck this bitch that works there and everybody else that supports this stuff. You are part of the problem. This is nonsense.
Yeah. Well, and one thing is what they prove is they believe in the rules for thee, but not for me.
Oh, yes.
I mean, because he didn't say anything that I know of as inflammatory, right? He didn't.
Oh, he did.
They're saying like it's inflammatory.
Yeah, his comments was hold on, I've got the tweet here. I just had it up. Let me get it real quick. His tweet was, and this is a quote directly from the guy's Twitter. He's verified on Twitter somehow. He's got almost 80,000 followers. He says, "Will there be civil unrest for the woman who was executed inside the Capitol today, or were the MAGA martyr die in vain? The video will be aired soon, ban.video and resistance.video, and it sounds pretty gruesome." That's it.
Yeah,
That's
so
it.
he didn't say anything. He didn't
No.
say anything hateful.
Well, neither did
totally
Trump.
Crazy.
Trump said march
But-
peacefully down to the Capitol, and apparently he told people to
Incited
break
violence.
into Nancy Pelosi's office. So I mean, take that for what it's worth.
But that's the issue here is you have a Twitch employee saying horrible things about half of the Twitch audience and about people, and this guy didn't say anything directly horrible about a person, and he's the one banned. It's the rules for thee, not for me. They're sitting there and saying you're not allowed to speak and say things, but then they sit there and speak and say whatever they want.
That's what's so crazy is like, if you want to stop all of it, fine. But how can you have an employee posting this on her LinkedIn? She's saying fuck 74 million people, calling them racists and terrorists. I mean, like, I'm at a loss. If you support this stuff, you are literally the problem. If you want to say we shouldn't be having these, don't talk about this stuff at all. That's fine. We've always been for that. But you can't espouse anti-Trump. But then when somebody says, is this lady going to die in vain? Oh my God, we've got to ban you from the platform. Yet this stupid bitch is still able to work at Twitch, sits in her SJW cubicle all day, and does whatever. Posts on her LinkedIn. Congratulations. Good on you, Twitch. This stuff is all going to come crumbling down because there's not going to be anybody left to use these platforms. They'll have to start killing each other, then it all crumbles. So thank God.
Once
thank
they
God
turn
for
on
Twitch.
themselves, once they finally get rid of all the people that they view as dangerous, then they will turn on themselves, and then
they'll kill each
look
other
at North
from the
Korea as the
inside.
perfect example. Once they have everybody in the jail cells, then they start reporting each other, because you're not quite you're not cheering enough.
You didn't cry hard enough at the funeral.
Emperor enough. You didn't cry quite. You weren't quite sad enough, and you'll start to then you report the person next to you just so they can continue having free workers. Once they've managed to kill all the people that were dissidents. It's ridiculous.
I say to Twitch and Twitter and everybody else, bring it on. These companies have the opportunity to make to be the titans of this industry, presumably forever. And they are in the process of flushing it down the toilet because of literally one person.
A minority of woke
Not
people.
one person. No, they're flushing it down the toilet because of one person, because of Donald Trump. They're going to flush. They could have if Twitter, Facebook, and Amazon, Twitch, and all these sites just let this stuff go, Brian, there would never be other sites that it would exist on the internet. There would not need to be BitChute and DLive and alternative sites.
Yeah.
If they would be the permanent tech titans. But you are going to watch, in my opinion, over the next
crumble.
10 years, all these sites are going to crumble because they have pushed themselves into such a corner. There's going to be an internet revolution on these websites. These sites could control indefinitely for as long as my lifetime, my kids' lifetimes, and my grandkids' lifetimes. Permanent control, and they're gonna ruin it all because of Donald Trump. And that, to me, is hilarious.
One thing I don't think that these people that right now feel like they're able to say these things when other people can't, I don't think they realize that once the sentiment turns, they will be unhireable. when someone can go back and look, oh, so what did you post on your LinkedIn here in 2021, 2020? Oh, you posted that. I don't think you're someone that we can hire because you were willing in your professional, I mean, the most
on your
professional
LinkedIn
website where you go post things to business regarding business. It's not Facebook, it's not Twitter. This is LinkedIn, your professional business profile. You're posting these things. Once that sentiment turns and they start looking at these people and what they've been typing, because they feel right now they have carte blanche. They have the ability to say whatever they want and nothing seems to come back to them. Wait till that sentiment turns and then people go, this stuff doesn't go away. It doesn't get erased. This is here. It's going to be bad for these people. And it's not a threat. I'm not threatening them. I'm just telling them that's reality. Like once the sentiment turns and then that's not viewed as acceptable anymore, you will be unhireable. It's silly.
Yeah, it's a disgrace. It's the most ludicrous. It's just to see what some of the stuff that Twitch has pulled over the past couple months. I mean, even you look at back the banning of Dr. Disrespect still with there
for no reason.
From what everybody can tell,
literal
no reason. Banning of channels, now banning of emotes. I mean, it's just again, while employees, the directors of creative social impact at Twitch is calling half of America racists and terrorists. It's just it's laughable. These Twitch and all of these game journalists and all these other jackasses. These people are a laughing stock, and I can't wait till this window swings around and it hits it is going to be such a hard crash and burn. And as I'm going to have such a smile on my face watching these miserable, sorry sacks of shit burn with it all. Because all of this is going to come crumbling down. You're already seeing it.
Yep.
It is absolutely going to come crumbling down right in front of their eyes. And I will have the biggest, Brian and I will be over here on our website, infectionpodcast.com, with two big old smiles on our faces. Because I mean, this is lunacy.
And one thing for us that, I mean, there's so many people on Twitch that have said it, their whole, everything is on Twitch. If Twitch goes away for them, like they can try to go over to YouTube or whatever. We're podcasters. We have the ability to do this without any other company. Like I can host it myself. It gets pushed out. We have a podcast affiliate, a place where we don't rely on even Apple to get our podcast out 100%. So it's just, we don't worry about it so much.
Nope. And at this point, I don't care.
More of it's okay. And at this point, with how it is, when you have someone who's so anti everything that you are, it's just like Amazon, which is Twitch, and Twitter. Like that's why I canceled my Twitter. Why would I support someone who hates who I am?
Yeah.
So, and I'm not anything crazy. I believe that you should have the right to own a gun if you want to. I believe you should have the right to say whatever you want to say, as long as you're not threatening someone else, right?
Yeah.
I believe in freedom of speech. I believe in everything in the Constitution, and that makes me an extremist. And I don't see how that's normal. I don't see how that's sane.
Yeah, in years,
the Constitution, the thing our country's built on, is extreme now.
Yeah, and in years past, we would have shied away from these conversations, but at least for me, and I believe Brian, you feel the same way. No more. It's. I'm
tired of it.
Yeah. I'll go back and work my day job. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and pander to these literal communists. Is what it comes down to at this point. So, have at it, Twitch. Yep. Eat your heart out. Bring it on. So,
all right. Well, is there anything else you want to cover here?
No, we've got a couple things that we didn't get to, but we can probably get to those.
Do you want to do the Rust video really quick? Because I think there's some cool things.
Yes.
Because the Rust is really popping off, and this might explain why to some people. I think it'd be really good just to cover the Rust video really quick, because this is covering their January update. And Shadowfrax does a really good job of talking about it.
I think that is a very good idea, and we have got some huge numbers from Rust coming up right after this.
All right.
Greetings, survivors and friends, and new survivors and friends especially, as there might be a few of you joining for the first time. If that's you, then make sure you sub for more of this. every week. Stay tuned regardless though, because I have some exclusive work in progress stuff to show you. But first, you may have noticed Rust is Flavor of the Month on Twitch at the moment, when Twitch is working, and some people are even playing it. Dead game, by the way, 3 out of 10. With that in mind, right now there's also a few new Twitch drops active to ride the hype train, as it were. Totally coincidental, I'm sure, but here's a quick rundown. You can get a sofa complete with orthopedic tilt and suspicious stains in exchange for 2 hours of your life, which for only 100 wood and 30 cloth will allow a couple of players to cozy up and receive 100% comfort, as long as they're in the same household or support bubble, presumably. For a 4-hour stint, you'll get this industrial skin for the sheet metal door, which actually has see-through glass. Watch to win much. And then for a full 8 hours of having a Twitch window open, you'll get a BP for this stunning hobo no hobo barrel. You know what these things do already. They're the same as the ones around the map, but this will let you bring the outdoors inside for just 100 wood with 50 of that in the barrel. So basically just a reskinned campfire. Not only, but also there are some unique skins dropping on Twitch for watching a bunch of streamers who've been playing the game for at least a whole week. And that's all the free advertising they're getting from me. If you want more details about how to start earning drops and all the answers to the usual stupid questions about this stuff, then there's a link in the description. All the best. Now, if the blueprints on official Rust servers were a bottom, then they'd be absolutely filthy, because it's been several years now since they were last wiped. Well, all of that just changed, thanks mainly to the new tech tree system. See my previous video, link on screen now. Because it was such a big change, the team felt that the playing field of knowledge needed to be leveled at last, although reportedly you shouldn't expect another BP wipe on officials for quite a while. With this month's big update that was merged in on the 7th, there were quite a lot of quality of life improvements for both players and server owners. Firstly, the placement guides for sleeping bags, beach towels and beds will now change to orange if you're trying to place them close to another one of your spawn points. You can still put them down, but this small change helps you to be aware that there will be a shared cooldown. You should no longer receive high amounts of radiation when strolling past the launch site main building, which is nice, and the research cost of Tier 2 engine parts was reduced to 20 scrap. Come on, start using those cars. You know you want to. Please. SAM sites have had a few tweaks to their behaviour. They should no longer target grounded, unmounted helis and uninflated balloons, regardless of where they are. Previously, they would still target them as long as they were higher than the SAM site itself. Now they'll only fire on targets that have someone mounted or are currently in the air. Oh, and auto turrets now auto-reload after adding a weapon/ammo. And now for the Rust weather forecast. We should see more clear skies from here on in, with less chance of weather events such as rain and storms, as these have been toned down a bit. Shame. Although, as with most things in Rust, the weather is still subject to change. For server owners, there were a few nice little perks this month. First of all, there's now a centralized banning system that you can take advantage of, and if you are the owner of more than one server, then this means you can natively sync bans across all of them, and I'll put a link to the wiki page for this in the description for you. Apparently, there was an incident last month which saw one official server get wiped halfway through when the Christmas patch went live. Hilarity ensued. The upshot of this is that, as well as squashing whichever bug was responsible, some functionality was added to maintain rotating backups of older saves. So if something embarrassing happens, you can just rewind to a less embarrassing time. The convar you need to know for this is server.save backup count. The minimum value is 2, but you can set it higher, and restoring from one of these saves is as easy as removing the number suffix from it. For more details, please see the dev blog, or just pause this screen. Those were the most notable things that changed this month, but remember, it is only January, and the team have just emerged from their holiday cave base, so you should see things speed up from here on in. And the word on the street is that there are big plans for content this year. I mean, just look at some of the new stuff that was added in 2020, despite it being a complete Star Wars Christmas special of a year. I think they did quite well. Over to works in progress, where I have some exclusive visuals to show you now. You may have heard me mumble a lot recently about plans to link the island's train network up and allow us to trundle around it on a work cart. Well, sadly I can't show you anything on the cart, but images have just emerged for some of the new underground tunnels. Of course, it was always going to be a challenge to link up a rail network on a procedural map, what with all the existing roads and trails to work around, so as I expected would happen, all the tracks are going subterranean. Initially, when I heard about these, I had imagined them to be like the mine shafts, but that's probably my fault for watching Temple of Doom so many times. They are actually going to be proper industrial jobbies that look like the London Underground on lockdown. As you can see, there will be quite a few different sections with some two-way traffic in places. I'm not sure exactly how it'll all work or when it'll be ready yet, but one thing's for sure, we'll soon be able to take some slightly stealthier routes across or underneath the island. What do you think though? Please use the comments as a platform to tell me your most intelligent thoughts. If you'd like to support my channel, then I have a Patreon page and some very sexy merch over on Teespring. Liking and subscribing are a huge help too, so please do if you haven't already. You can catch me streaming on Twitch and stay up to date with my content on Twitter, Facebook, Discord, and my Steam group. I shall catch you all soon. In the meantime, keep calm and stay rusty. Cheerio.
All right, cheerio to our friend Shadowfrax. He does he does have a Patreon, so if you do support his stuff and like his content, highly recommend you go check that out. Obviously, Twitch drops are a big thing, Brian, but that centralized banning where you can now sync bans across your multiple servers is super cool. If you run big popular servers and you have one jackass that just hops from server to server to server, now you can actually sync that. That's very, very cool. I like that.
Yeah, and they're definitely, I mean, you'll go over their numbers, but they're doing really well right now. And a lot of it's because they're so in touch with their community. So it'll be interesting.
It is, and obviously
how they grow throughout the year.
Yeah, and the Twitch drops have a huge impact. We saw that with Escape from Tarkov. That had a big impact. That I'm going to pull up. I should have done this when the video was playing, but if I pull up Twitch right now and go to browse, Rust is currently in the lead. It's got about 640,000 people viewing it, which is obviously, which is a lot. The next closest is just chatting with 300,000 people. So it's, Twitch drops are a huge key to success, and the current players will show that, which we'll do here in just a couple of minutes. So, that is Rust. A lot of cool stuff.
Very good. All right. And I'm just going to mention really quickly some of the things that will carry over to next week for people that are interested.
All right.
First of all, we have a PUBG had a few a few things talking about some content that they've had. And also there's a patch on test, which maybe by next week it'll be going to live. And so we can actually, that'll be good because then we can just talk about the features that go to live. Conan Exiles had an update. Zera had an update that we'll talk about next week. And Satisfactory had an update as well. So those will carry over.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. All right. Well, without further ado, let's take a look at some numbers. Enough foreshadowing. Let's take a look at it. Let's start it off with Cyberpunk. 64,813 people currently playing that. The 24-hour peak, 94,502, with a 7-day peak of 153,736. Let's take a look at Ark. Currently playing 49,467. The 24-hour peak, 71,144, with a 7-day peak of 89,545. Here it is. Rust, currently playing right now, as we speak, 177,666. People currently playing that. The 24-hour peak, 215,795. The 7-day peak, 244,770. That is an all-time peak for the game, and is up over 100,000 from where it was this point last week at its all-time high. Absolutely incredible from the folks over at Rust. Taking a look at 7 Days to Die, boy, they are still rocking and rolling over here. 22,688 currently playing that. 26,398 is your 24-hour peak, with a 7-day peak of 36,678. Taking a quick look at a couple of other games. Miscreated, 365 currently playing that. The 24-hour peak, 532, with a 7-day peak of 672. And finally, wrapping us up here, Last Oasis. Surprising. 1,866 people currently playing. 2,182 is your 24-hour peak, with a 7-day peak just shy of 3,000, 2,811. And that is current players. That brings us up to date with all of the different games that people are playing. And those numbers from Rust, just incredible. Somebody in chat said, Bravo North said it peaked at over 1 million streamers on Twitch this past weekend, so that's very cool as well.
Very nice. All right, let's go ahead and roll into tip of the week, where either I give a general gaming tip, but this one I figure I'd do a specific one for Cyberpunk 2077 since I just beat the main campaign. Hopefully this will help you guys a little bit, but this is tip of the week.
Literally unplayable.
All right, so now that I've completed the main story for Cyberpunk, I have a couple suggestions that I think that will help someone who's getting started in the game. First of all, I want to encourage you to take your time because I went through and pretty much just mainly focused on the main story, and I felt like I missed out on a lot of stuff. With other games like GTA, they really kind of pull you and you end up doing a lot of side quests because it takes you somewhere and then there's another quest there. Cyberpunk doesn't really do that. You can very easily just go from quest to quest to the main quest line, and you don't really realize you're not really touching all these other quests very much. But take your time. Don't do just the main storyline because it'll go way too quickly. I just felt like it was over. And one thing you'll find is that some of these side quests and other things that you're doing are very good in comparison to the main quests. It's not like there are some that feel just as epic as you're going through and doing them. Now, another thing that I would encourage is don't spend your perk points right away. All of the attribute points and the things that you can spend, I would encourage you to save those up because as you're going through and doing these various quests and dialogue, some of the perks that you're getting, they're really not that big of an improvement. But you'll go to a quest and there'll be a certain dialogue option that maybe isn't available, or maybe some place that you can't go or a way that you can't enter because you don't have enough points in a particular skill. Save them up. Once you get to that certain place, then spend those points enough to be able to get that thing done that you need to do. And don't just spend all your points because you have them. Because there's some things that I would have liked to have done another way, or I could have entered the building easier, but I had spent my points on just random things that didn't really matter at that point. But most of all, just slow down. And I encourage you to do those side objectives because they will affect the end story. Most people don't realize as you're going through, if you go and do side objectives and build up relationships with certain characters in the story, it actually unlocks and changes the endings that you can do in this story. So just go ahead and do that. Play through, take your time, do as many of the side objectives before you get to the end story, because otherwise you'll do the end story and then it'll take you back before the save point, and then you'll be going and doing side stuff, and it just doesn't quite feel the same. So I think that'll help you out a lot. That's stuff that I wish I knew prior to playing the game, and I think it'll make it to where your experience of going through the first time will be a lot better. So that is tip of the week.
All right. Thank you very much for that, Brian. I haven't played any Cyberpunk the past week, but I'll hopefully jump back into it here over the next little bit.
Yeah, just make sure you do that, because I think it would have made my experience just much more enjoyable. Now I'm going back and doing all those side quests, but I don't feel like the main story was important enough to be like, oh, I needed to get that out of the way. I wish I would have done all the other stuff first.
Yeah, I've been specifically focusing on some of those side quests just because I have no reason to. Honestly, the main story, I really don't, not say I don't care about the main story, but the side quests are so much fun that it kind of makes the main story kind of secondary almost. So a very useful tip.
Yeah,
and very much appreciated.
All right, so let's go ahead and are we ready to roll for the game giveaway?
Yes, sir. What do you got for us?
All right, so let's go ahead and roll for this. Congratulations, Saul Greatman. Saul Greatman, our official attorney of the podcast.
Our legal counsel.
Thank you very much.
That's
our legal counsel.
Term.
Okay.
That's our legal counsel.
Our official legal counsel. I will send you a copy of the game, and this is Pathologic 2. So hopefully you enjoy that.
Excellent.
All right. Is there anything else we need to cover?
No. I will say before you do your outro, we are available on some new services. We'll be putting links on the websites for those. But one is obviously Gab at Infection Podcast. We're on Parler at Infection Podcast. That's down right now. And
if it comes back up.
Yeah, and when that comes back up, we'll be there. And then the most recent one is the Telegram. which is a backup, t.me/infection podcast. And over the next week, we will have a link on the website where you can sign up for our mailing list, which will just be a self-hosted email list that if we get banned from somewhere or we get kicked off somewhere, we can send out an email and keep you informed.
Send a notice just saying, hey, here's...
Yeah, where we'll be. So we'll be putting that over the next couple of weeks. You don't. And frankly, I don't really care. So just we're going to make sure that we're staying aware or staying ahead of the ball and making sure that we can keep y'all informed as to what's going on. So I believe that's all my shilling. What do you got for us, Brian?
Well, if you want to find me, you can find me. What is it, Gab about Brian Aldridge? I'm on there, or you can go to my one post. Or
get on there, you jackass post.
I had no reason to, and now that I'm off of Twitter, we'll see how that goes. So, then also you can go to my blog biteoftech.com. Mainly go to our website infectionpodcast.com and join the Discord server. Look to the button where it says join our server on Discord. If you do that, you could submit news through the news channel on there. If there's a game that you think we should cover, or there's a topic that's important that week you think we should be covering, just drop a link to that in the game or in the news channel, and then we review that before we do our show notes each and every week. Also, there's our Steam group. If you want to get a reminder before our live show starts, just join the Steam group, have Steam open, and a little notification will pop up right before we go live, reminding you that you can come and join us. Also, if you want to watch the video forms of the podcast, both live and after the fact, we have those on Twitch, on BitChute, DLive, and on YouTube. If you want to watch the pre and post show, you can do that on our podcast extras that Judd does for us. Now, after the fact, if you're going to listen to the podcast on the road or something, we have all of our links in the lower right-hand side for a bunch of different platforms that you can listen to us on. If you're going to do that, you're more than welcome to follow along on the show notes. Now, for 213 episodes, you can go along and as we talk about different topics, and maybe there's a video that you want to watch along as we're watching it on the show, we have links for all of those for each and every episode that we've done. If you want to support the podcast, you can do that through our support option in the menu there, or you can go to infectionpodcast.com/support, or you can type directly. Perhaps you can do some Amazon purchases. For now, at least, you can go to amazon.infectionpodcast.com, or you can go to Humble. For a Humble bundle, you go to humble.infectionpodcast.com, or Prime Gaming, as long as we're here on Twitch.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Brian. As always, appreciate your wisdom and your passion on some of this stuff. It is nice to chat with somebody in the gaming world that isn't insane. So
lost their mind.
Yeah, very much appreciate that. You can follow me on Gab. I'm not trying to act like I'm a big deal. At Nick. Again, I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that's me. Check out the little check. Just, all right, check me out. You can also check out my political stuff at atnshow.com. Well, our intention is that we will be here next week, but who knows? We may or may not be on Twitch. So, with that being said, if you missed any portion of the show, if you want to check out links, show notes, pictures, videos, all that fun stuff, it's on our website, infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Get off of big tech. We'll see you next week.